Harley Lippman, senior policy expert. Shalom.
Shalom.
It's good to see you here in Israel. Last time we met was at the Israel parade in New York. You're here after the war in Iran. You were supposed to be here with actually a group, right? But it was important for you to come even though it was on your own, right?
Yes.
Tell us about what you've been doing these days.
Well, I just came out of a meeting with the American ambassador, Mike Huckabee, and I've been meeting with other Israeli leaders. There's a lot going on now in the Middle East. I've never been more hopeful in my lifetime, but we may be able to bring in other Arab and even Muslim, not-Arab, but Muslim nations into either the Abraham Accords or something similar to it.
So really, two-shot. So really, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is on his way to Washington very soon. He will be meeting with the president on Monday. What do you think is going to be there? We know that the president is trying to, end this war in Gaza, but it's more than that.
Well, I think there are two themes here. One is everybody wants a war ended, but the way conflicts are resolved in history is one side loses and surrenders and gives up, and that's how you have closure. So it hasn't happened with Hamas in Gaza, and it hasn't happened with the mullahs in Iran. So while Israel has performed extraordinarily militarily, as well as the United States, probably one of the most remarkable military outcomes in modern history, nevertheless, it's not over.
But you're saying something interesting. Everyone's saying that Gaza is not over. We even pay prices throughout the past few days and weeks in terms of our soldiers being killed. But you're saying that also in Iran it's not over.
Right. Because while they're weak, they could come back. There are 3 rules of warfare. Never underestimate your enemy, never hold them in contempt, and never think they can't recover from disaster. Like, look, in 67, what was it, 6 years later, the Arab world came back with better equipment and better technology than Israel had, right? 73 war, they had night vision goggles. Israel didn't even have it. Wow. So, and after 67, everybody saw Israel was big and strong, powerful, one of the biggest military victories in the annals of mankind, and yet they were surprised and they were being defeated in the early stages of the war. Israel was being defeated. So same thing here. While Israel has done extremely well, it's not over. Iran, they're going to be creative and think out of the box and think of other ways to hurt Israel. Maybe they can't even fire missiles, but they'll think of other things. And they're seething with revenge. So keep this in mind. This is what happens. We get into la-la land. We go into denial. This is what happened to Israel on October 7th. When bad people say they're going to do bad things to Jews, believe them. It's arrogance on our part to think we know better what they mean than their own words. Hamas was saying they want to kill every Jew, they want to destroy Israel, and they're building tunnels, and we're thinking, oh no, they want to govern. That's arrogance.
So you're saying that despite what we've gone through on October 7th, you're seeing this misconception coming back? Or you're afraid that it might happen?
I'm afraid it will happen. I'm not sitting with the IDF and their army commanders. Look, Israel didn't learn the lesson in 67, they didn't learn the lesson in 73. And then October 7th, almost 50 years to the day, and on a Jewish holiday also as well, they didn't learn their lesson on October 7th. So the danger is right now, maybe people are aware, but people drift into complacency. Israelis want normalcy. I get it. They want a better life. So it's easy to kind of check out and engage in wishful thinking. But Israel has enemies. Right now they're going on the offensive. That's the way Israel used to be, and that was more effective. You can't just mow the lawn.
But on Monday at the White House, Trump may say to Netanyahu, forget the details, end the war. And you're saying to Netanyahu, what? Answer fiercely?
Answer fiercely, then let me win it.
Because which means what? That's the big question.
Is it about defeat Hamas? Hamas has to either leave on safe passage, like the PLO did in southern Lebanon in 1982, or they have to be defeated where they surrender. If they don't, they're going to claim a huge victory. They're going to say, we stood up to mighty Israel for almost 2 years and we're still here. They're going to look like they won. Mm-hmm. Look, Iran and Hezbollah has been quiet, and it was done over a matter of weeks, over a short period of time. Hamas could say we're stronger and better because survival to them is victory. And they'll use that very effectively in manipulating the Arab world to say, we got to stand by Hamas. There's no substitute for victory if you want closure. That's what the history of the world has taught us.
But you're familiar with the character and really the attitude of the American president, of President Trump. We saw how upset he was about these, the fighter planes going after the ceasefire to hit back in Iran. Do you think that Netanyahu could say anything at this point?
I think President Trump listens and is open-minded. He does want things ended, he does want things quick, and he does want actions without casualties. It's a lot, but then there's reality. So you have to manage with that. President Trump is an extraordinary friend of Israel. I don't think Israel has ever had a friend like President Trump, and may never have. But remember also, that's for another 3.5 years. So Israel has to be thinking about the future.
Wow. Now you mentioned Iran and you mentioned Gaza. What we're seeing in Lebanon, however, is something that many Israelis are looking at and saying, yeah, that's exactly the right model that we want. In terms of we are attacking any threat, but they are quiet. They're not, Hezbollah hasn't vanished off the face of the earth. Don't you want an end game like that, or is that also problematic?
As long as Israel can weaken or most likely destroy Hezbollah, because remember, they can reconstitute themselves. Yeah, they're weakened today. You can't look at it. Life is not static. So the way it is now, Israel with impunity is attacking certain Hezbollah operatives in southern Lebanon. Okay, and that's a good thing. Is that the strategy going forward? I just think Israel has to articulate a clear strategy. They've been brilliant with tactics, but what's the long-term strategy? Tactically, it's brilliant what they did, but then what happens next?
Now let's just end with looking at really Trump and Israel. The relationship during these 12 days of war, or even a few days before, as we were hearing Trump saying, I told Netanyahu not to attack, and then he suddenly allowed us to attack, but he wasn't sure if he was going to come on. Then he surprisingly come on. Do you think it was all planned, or was really, him reacting?
I don't believe in these conspiracy theories. I don't think it was planned. There are so many moving parts, so many things going on behind the scenes, and Israel may not have done everything that Trump was expecting, and he got stressed out. I wouldn't read too much into it.
And the fact that he was upset on the day after the ceasefire?
I think that'll be fine.
So he's a real, true friend. And
he's a real,
you're also
true
familiar
friend.
with him and with the people around him.
It
comes from the heart.
Of course, it comes from the heart. He's a true friend. He's shown courage. But keep in mind, he is doing what is in America's best interest. And what Israel is doing in Israel's best interest. And while it should always be aligned, it may not always be. That's why also from Israel's perspective, they have to be self-sufficient. Because, you don't want a situation where they're needy and dependent on anyone. Because then that other party, in this case, probably the United States, has leverage and could stop Israel from doing things that Israel may feel is in its best interest.
Last but not least, you're following also what's going on in terms of the debate in the U.S., in the Republican Party, regarding being part of the war, being, in terms of MAGA or not MAGA, or America first or America only.
Right.
Where is that holding now? What do you see?
Well, that's where, again, everybody has to be sensitive to that. America is tired of wars, given what happened in Afghanistan and Iraq. So there's this overreaction where they don't want another what they call endless wars. And they don't want to feel they're being manipulated by any country, let's say Israel, in doing Israel's bidding. You have to be sensitive to that. Now, taking out Iran's nuclear facilities is in America's best interest, because they'll eventually go after America. They said America is the big Satan that they want to destroy. And Trump, his flag that he's holding is non-proliferation, which is the most noble cause. You don't want a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, because Arab nations one of them may end up using a bomb. So he's doing great things that are in America's best interest and in Israel's best interest. But even great friends could disagree, and they could diverge. So that's why for Israel, if Israel wants to be the master of their own ship, they have to be self-sufficient.
Okay, Harley Lippman, you're ending your visit here in Israel. By the way, your soul has been recharged. You love coming.
I love coming. How can you not love being here?
Wow. So we'll see you again soon here in Israel.
I'll be back again soon.
Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.